everybody. Oh my God, I got a lady on the channel. Ooh, she ready to tell you this history. Oh man, let me tell you something. I was recommended to her by somebody who came on the show, right? And I like that when that happens because that meant that they like what I did, the person who came on, and people vet me because they don't know who I am. I'm an ordinary guy trying to do something extraordinary through the people who come on here and tell you these stories. I'm Anthony Brogdon, and watch out, my friends. You're going to like this video. Man, this sister smiling. She ready. She tight. Oh, my God. Here we go. Some good Black history. And let me tell you something. This is what we do. I got over 500 videos up here. This is my mission, everybody. This is what I do because I have been fortunate enough to find people like this lady to come on the show because they know what they taught. They experts, they scholars, they lived it, they wrote about it, got them PhDs and things of that sort. And I'm excited. I ain't gonna lie to you. And so hit the subscribe button on Strong Inspirations. It's free. It don't even ask no information. It just let me know you like me. And the other thing is when the people come on here, they look to see how many subscribers to vet me. And then I know people watching this around the world. I get messages from Africa and Europe and Canada of how they like the show because I do my best to keep it real. Did you see the one I did with the guy out of New York who goes to Africa, in particular to Egypt, and he goes in those pyramids? He wrote a book about it. He tells you what it's like, firsthand knowledge. Watch that video. Did you see the one I did with the lady who is from Jamaica? She grew up in the bushes, right? In the maroon community. Sister bad too. So then she somehow get to New York City, and what a dichotomy in that regard. And now she has moved back to the southern region and working to help Black farmers save their land. Watch that video. Did you see the one I did with the lady who is in Canada and her great-great-grandfather was Harriet Tubman's minister? Wow. Watch that video, because Harriet had to run a long way at times. They was after that sister. And that's why she's skinny. She was doing a lot of walking. And God kept her till in her 90s. Unbelievable. Well, this lady is like I say, out of St. Catherine in Canada. A huge community. I'm going to St. Catherine. I'm going to a lot of spots. I'm on the road now. I was in Selma, Alabama. I went down there for the bridge crossing. I enjoyed that. And did you see the video I released with the guy who got beat on Bloody Sunday? He was 12 years old. The white guy on the horse hit him with some kind of stick. He said, my back still hurt. And he forgave white folk. And through that, he's a college graduate, and all his kids are doing very well out of Selma, Alabama. Watch that video. There's a lot of them on there, a lot of these protests. I got one where the lady says she do the protest, and the sheriff called her. I don't know, this could have been about the 60s or 70s or something, because we're still protesting around the world. Mm-hmm. Oh, my folks. And the sheriff called her the night before, say, I think you should cancel this because we got calls from the racists. She said, man, I don't care. Tell them to show up. Mm-hmm. And some of them did. She made me cry because she said we put our guns down in front of them and they had to do the same. Watch that video. I got it from all over. I got ones that I found the descendants of the guy who was enslaved, and he and his son started a car manufacturing company in 1905 and was competing against Henry Ford and was beating Henry Ford. Wow. They was doing better, but my man Henry Ford, white guy, he got access to the Capitol, so on and so forth. That long story there. But nonetheless, come out of that institution of enslavement, send your son to college, and then you do those kind of things. We cannot be stopped, everybody. And that's the other part of and the main focus of what we talk about on the show. And I gotta say also, we got some wellness too. I want to make sure you eat right and your mind is solid and so on and so forth. So did you see the video I did with the lady who had stage 4 cancer and she cured herself by eating them herbs and fruits and vegetables along with chemo? She, she said I had to do the chemo thing too. But in 3 months, she said I was cancer free. So she tells you what she did, and her website is on there. And if you got that in condition, check her out. She can talk to you over the telephone. At least give you some tips, let you know that God can work in that way. It's a miracle there, and she's a living proof of it. Watch that video. Couple more housekeeping things. Let me tell you this. I'm on my way. I'm speaking at Galveston Island for Juneteenth.
Congratulations.
Confirmed, everybody. And I'll put all that on the website. Wherever I go, I'll let you know I'm going. You can show up too. Have a good time. And we're going to dance too. I do my dance everywhere I go. So, and I support them Black restaurants. I eat them Black restaurants. I do that everywhere. I don't try not to go to them other establishments. You do some of it, but at the most part, I go in the hood. I went in the hood in Orlando about 3 months ago and had a good time. I mean, I danced with the rest of with the good people. How about this? I'm a filmmaker, everybody. This is a documentary I've done titled Business in the Black. Watch this. It tells you about the Black folks enslaved who own businesses and so much more. It's streaming on Amazon. Watch my film. And I know people watching it, my sales are up. And I'm also an author. I wrote this book. It's America's #1 Black business history book. I'm not the only one that says that. There's no book as easy to read and comprehensive as this one. Get you a copy. Go to Amazon. I ain't gonna say don't go there, but if you go to my website, businessintheblack.net, I'll autograph it. Same price. So how about that? So get you a copy of this book. It will, I'm telling you, you'll like this. Not just because I wrote it. Now, you hear me use this term strong a lot. Strong is my favorite word. I just like what strong stands for. Everything I do got strong in it. And strong stands for strength, tenacity, resilience, and a sense of oneness, nobility, and grace. And that is my introduction to the strong soul, sister. Come on, lady, please. Thank you for being on my show. Here you go, everybody. Watch this. Introduce yourself. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm Dr. Dianne Wellington. I'm an assistant professor at SUNY Cortland in New York. I just recently completed my doctorate from IU Bloomington last year. A little bit about me, I'm originally from Jamaica, so similar to the young lady that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Raised in Jersey, and then inner city Jersey, so close to Newark. And then I went to North Carolina. I went to North Carolina A&T and Bennett College. And then I taught there for about 12 years. And then I went and got my Ph.D. So I've lived a little bit, lived in Indiana for a bit, and now I'm back in New York, where it's cold and snowy.
Yeah, oh, sure. Okay, we're going to talk about you. You've given us a good insight. How long was it that you lived in Jamaica? Let's ask that first.
Oh, I was very young, so I was 3. I left when I was 3. But I've never ever left that part of me because I wasn't really allowed to. So the way I was raised in such a way that I wasn't supposed to be Black American per se. I was supposed to always maintain that I am Jamaican in a Jamaican household, if that makes sense.
Yeah, okay. What does that mean, if I may say? What is there a different dynamic that Jamaican people think about the way of life and the raising of the kids or something, or whatever?
I don't think there's necessarily there is a different component in the sense that you don't want to lose a cultural piece, so you don't want to lose the food, and you don't want to lose your accent, and you don't want to lose the history that comes with being Jamaican. You don't want to lose the roots and the heritage, right? So you want to learn how to make rice and peas and chicken. You want to learn how to embrace Bob Marley and Marcus Garvey and these different folks who paved the way, both in Jamaica and America. So always kind of adhering to the Afro-Caribbean piece, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love it. Were you able, and I hear some now, but then in New York has an accent too. So is there a
Yeah.
little difference that, and do you, I don't know, for lack of a word, code switch
Yes,
in
I
that
code switch a
regard?
lot. I code switch a lot. So right before we came on here, I was speaking purely patois all morning. Um, and then I speak, I was raised in Jersey, so I got a little bit of the Jersey swag to me, right? And then I lived in North Carolina for 12 years, so I stayed in North Carolina like North Carolina all rolled together. Right? And then now I'm in New York where I still got the New York swag a bit. It's so the code switch always regionally. And when I'm in Jamaica, I don't speak any English at all.
Oh, really?
I don't.
What it looks like to me, and I don't mean no disrespect. When I go to Jamaica, it's like the brothers and sisters. I know the sun is hot. They kind of just sitting on the side of the road. Uh, Is there something to that? Is I mean, I'm not saying that they're lazy, but
Right.
is there? Yeah, go ahead.
There's an
There's a
economic
question there somewhere. Right, right.
Yeah, there's an economic disparity piece in that, right? So there's that piece where a lot of folks, so some of the research I do is considered emancipation literacies, and it roots out of this idea of giving youth, Afro-Caribbean, transnational youth, the ability to do more than just exist. So yes, you go to school, yes, you get the high school diploma, but then what happens next? Helping our students, helping our people do something else, like give them an avenue to do something, even if it's a trade, work with them to get them there. So that's why a lot of them kind of like kicking it, right? Because
Yeah,
where is the money? Where is the support to do something else? And it's really disheartening.
yeah,
I spent some time doing research at a school in Jamaica, and it's disheartening when you know in real life that it's really difficult to find the funds and the support to help these children to do more. But they have big dreams and they want to do more. Um, but how do we get them there? Because one person, yes, we can make a change, but if you also live in America and you are a Black person in America who don't have the best situation either, right? With what are you going to support them? Because
yeah,
there's like this misconception that you come to America as a Black person. So you from the islands, anywhere, you come to America, and if you're a Black of the diaspora, you're gonna live this luxurious life. And then you come to America and you find out, no, that's not the truth, because you're now just
yeah.
another subpart of another population. You
Sure,
are already
sure.
marginalized, and now you're further marginalized because you're of a different Black diaspora community, right? So you don't necessarily identify with the general Black American community. You're a Black Caribbean. All of these things have different interactions with the world. And then you think about being a Black woman, for me, is like that's another piece of
Yeah.
marginalization. So what does that mean to be a Black Caribbean woman in America? What does that
Uh,
mean to be a transnational person? So
yeah.
a lot of what you see when you go to Jamaica and they're hanging out is really just lack of resources.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, and we're gonna stay on you just a tad more personally though. Where's is there slavery in your family and maroon community kind of thing? Do you know of European connection, what have you, or
So
African connection?
yes. So my grandparents did not have the ability to go to school. So there's no record of my grandparents going to school. They were born in 1921 and 1928 or something like that. So when they died, they were 96 and 97. They died together, minutes apart. And then
Oh,
our roots are kind of, to my research, is based in Ghana. So our roots are linked to Ghana. And I'm from Clarendon, Jamaica. So that's the south tip. So an hour south of Kingston.
but Jamaica, there's the maroon community too. Do you
Yes,
know
yes,
that
yes. I'm
dynamic?
not, I
And
don't, we don't have any linkages. My family doesn't have linkages to the Maroon community.
yeah. So like with them not having education, well, how did they survive? Your parents and then even maybe your grandparents. What's
So,
the industry for them?
so what's so interesting? So in schooling, I learned that we call it funds of knowledge, right? So where the funds of our knowledge come from? It comes from our experiences. If we think about Black feminist thought, we're thinking about what we've learned to do to survive, right? So like my grandmother, she used to work in the sugarcane fields. My mother, she finished school in 5th grade. She didn't get to go any further. She worked in the sugarcane fields. My grandmother, she sold coal, so actual like charcoal.
Mm.
So they used to go fishing and pick fish and clean fish and sell fish. So this is how they survived. And so up until literally a couple of months before my undergrad graduation, I didn't even know what a master's degree was because that wasn't how I was brought up. I didn't know what these things were, right? I just knew that I needed to work and I was here and I needed to work and that's it. And over time, I learned like, oh, there's something else I could do. Oh, there's something else. Oh, there's another level to
I
this.
see. I
Oh, I
see.
could do this too.
Yeah.
And every time I'm like, I wonder how I could do this and how it could benefit my family. So like every time I do something, I think of like, oh, if I do this, then maybe I could open up a literacy center here. Or if I do
Oh,
this, I
okay.
could build a scholarship. Well, what would happen if I asked my aunt to go down the street to the school and ask them for their contact info? Maybe we could partner and do something for the kids in the area.
I love it. What happened to you to make you think like this then? I know leaving Jamaica, was that a blessing, a curse, or you know what I'm asking you?
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it was a blessing in disguise. Cause I think growing up for me, there's all, and even still now, there's always that nudge between you're never quite American enough and you're not Jamaican enough. Um, so what it incited for me is honestly wanting to do more. So when I was 17, I experienced a lot in Jersey. So and I'll be completely transparent because I do live my life this way. I had a situation with rape. I had a situation with a stalker, all these different things, and I
Oh my
wanted something
God.
different. I
Sorry to hear
wanted some.
that. Yeah.
Thank you. I wanted something different, and I wanted to have a chance to learn more about what it meant to be me outside of other people. And at that time, I was carrying all these things and these experiences, and I didn't voice it. Um, and I was afraid to tell my parents because, of course, in me opening myself, like I blamed myself for these experiences because it was me um, pretty much not listening, right? Not following orders, not following instructions,
Of your
me being
parents.
disobedient, yes, to my parents,
All right.
that kind of opened it up for these situations to happen to me. And in protection of them, I had to learn how to be strong to protect them because the stalker turned into a bigger situation where like
Oh,
they were watching me sleep or watching my parents sleep, and it was a lot. So for me, it was like I need to leave Jersey and go do something different. I want to go see something different. I want to break generational curses. And I also don't want to keep my family in danger because of my own negligence at 17, right?
I got
I
you.
made a bad decision that could have opened up a completely different response. So when you were saying earlier about God's greatness, living testimony of how God has saved my life numerous times,
I
right?
got you.
And as a result, I really just want to help other people do the same thing.
I got you. So okay, in Jersey, you grew up in the ghetto?
It ain't the ghetto, but it ain't nice either. I
Oh,
mean,
really?
I consider it when I'm home, we say, "Oh, you in my hood," right? Um,
Yeah.
but it ain't hood like certain
And,
parts.
yeah. Did you got all A's and that kind of thing? And
Yes.
and
Mhm.
and and did the kids pick on you for that?
I got picked on for being dark skinned. Most of my life I got
Oh,
picked on for being dark skinned. And I got picked on in my earlier years for the Jamaican piece. In my later years, not so much because most of my friends and everybody who I grew up around was from Jamaica, Dominican Republic, Puerto
yeah, that's what
Rico.
I'm thinking. They might have moved in a neighborhood
Yeah.
similar nationality.
So that part, I never knew black and white at that time because everyone around me was from the Caribbean of some sort or Africa, literally.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and not so many Black Americans, more so a lot of diasporic people.
yeah.
But yeah, I got made fun of because of my complexion.
It's crazy because see, I got made up being lighter complected. And so what's the right one in between dark and light or something like? Because you know, kids are gonna find something to say something
Right,
about each other because
right,
that's what racism is.
right,
Racism is I gotta say something about you because I want to be mean,
right,
and they're gonna find whatever it can be.
right.
I could
But
I'll be honest. I wish I was darker complected. I hated this and growing up because I had no comeback. You know what I mean? Oh
right,
yeah, well you dark then. Shit, I wanted
right,
to be dark.
right.
Um, and so that led you to want to say I'm gonna read and write and do my
Yeah,
schoolwork.
yeah. I want to read and write, and I participated in numerous sports and activities. Participated in church often. I kept myself busy because I knew I was always made fun of, right? But I also wanted to do more. So like when I was in high school, I was in the choir, and they're like, "Oh, you got to pay $500 to go to Myrtle Beach." Because we went to Myrtle Beach, we went to Canada, we took different trips. And I would go do concession stand and make burgers every day for hours and sell, and that's how I earned my trip.
Mm.
So I knew what it meant because I knew my parents worked hard. My mother used to work like 2 shifts. So she would go in at 2:30 and come off at 3 o'clock in the morning. And then my father would go to work. He worked for New York Transit. He would go in at 4 and get off at 6. You know what I'm saying? So I
Yeah,
knew I need to work because they're working hard to keep and maintain me, and I want to go on the school trip. So let me go sell these burgers, you know what I'm saying, and sell some
yeah,
candy and do what I need to do.
I got you.
So just always
Yeah.
wanted to do more.
You know, is I know the answer should be yes. Is there a sense of pride growing up hard and then outcome and then coming out of that compared to you didn't have that element in someone's life? You know what I mean? Because that's kind of what rappers do. I'm going off the deep end. I grew up hard because if they didn't grow up hard, other people wouldn't accept them. Is there something in that?
For me, no, it's a sense of responsibility. It's a sense of responsibility to tell the story and for other people to not have to endure certain things.
I love
So
it.
like I actively tell people about my poor decisions when I was 17, um, because I don't want people to make the same mistake. And if they choose to, it's not because they didn't know, it's because they
Right
chose
there,
to.
you go.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I don't see as pride, like even me as an assistant professor now, I don't take the role as, oh my gosh, I'm assistant professor. I see it as a role to try and make a change and do something different.
Yeah, I love it. So now you like you say you grew up in the East Coast and then did the southern tip with North Carolina. What what was your take on going down there? And the different dynamic, maybe the attitude of the people, so on and so forth.
So when I first went to North Carolina, I hated it because it was so different. Um, and it wasn't until I went to Indiana that I learned to love North Carolina, honestly. But what I loved about North Carolina was the opportunity to make and build a foundation for yourself. There's so many opportunities to create an LLC. There's so many opportunities to further your education. You just have to seek it, but they're there. Um, so I loved it. I loved my HBCU experience. Now I did experience similar skepticism or folks making fun of me because I was from Jamaica and there wasn't a high Caribbean population at the time.
Let me
Um,
stop you right. What's the joke about being from Jamaica? I meet a hey to tell you the truth, I meet a sister from Jamaica. I'm like, oh, I ain't never met a sister from Jamaica. Hey girl, what you know? Can I kiss you? See how Jamaicans kiss or something? You know what I mean? Why is it a joke? Because you're from Jamaica? I wonder.
so initially it was, oh, I was rude, I was mean because I was from Jersey and from Jamaica, which I did. I was a little rude, a little
Yeah.
mean
Yeah, okay.
initially,
Okay. Okay.
right? So I'll
Okay.
admit it. I used to be real sharp with the tongue.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
But the other part was, oh, well, she's gonna make everything Jamaican. Well, if you don't like America, well, you need to learn how to be more American. Like it was a lot of that. Well,
Oh.
you need to learn how to speak better and enunciate because you're not in Jamaica, you're not in Jersey anymore. You're around Black American people, so be American. Like it was a lot of that, and I faced it, but I also kept it. Like I didn't share with a lot of people. It wasn't
Yeah.
until my recent years, probably the last 6 years that I actually have spoken up more about my experiences. So
Yeah.
as much as I love our people, right? Our people, we do that internal racism thing heavy,
Yeah, we do.
but
We do.
and the colorism thing too, because I
Yeah, we
experienced that
do. Yeah.
where I was at the HBCU and they're like, "Oh, we gotta think in pictures." They're like, "Oh, we gotta think about where we place you." Like what? Like
Really, yeah. Is there something in and I'm going all over the place,
yeah,
but is there something in the Jamaican history, the heritage that makes you proud? You know, what I mean, like
everything,
something that they did to fight against
everything,
racism, story, any of that kind of thing.
absolutely everything. There's no part of me that doesn't acknowledge everything about Jamaica that makes me proud. Um, and here's why. So when I think about Marcus Garvey and I think about Bob Marley, I've based a lot of my work on the redemption song from Bob Marley, Emancipate Yourself from Mental Slavery, none other than us can free your mind. Have you heard that
Mhm.
song?
Yeah, yeah. Because both of
And
them
Bob,
are from Jamaica, right?
right.
Okay.
And I based a lot of my research on that because I do believe that spiritually we're the only people who can free ourselves, right? Can't nobody else free us. So that's where my work with emancipation literacies comes in. Like we have to free ourselves and emancipate ourselves so that we can help liberate others. If we don't free ourselves, then how are we liberating others? Because we aren't free. So we need to think, and we don't have to be fully free, but we have to have some kind of acknowledgement of the things that we've endured and how we're healing through those things so we can help other people do the same thing. So when I think about like Jamaican pride, every single thing about me, because I know that I wouldn't be who I was if I didn't have the parents or the grandparents that I had. And granted, of course, everything isn't always peachy king, right? But seeing people work hard and sell coal and wash clothes for a living and do the hard work just to sustain and survive. And I'm the first person to be in America, honestly, and go through the whole education system. So it's like a different kind of pride because I kind of changed the mold in a particular way.
Who's a national leader out of Jamaica that people look up to? They might even celebrate as a holiday or something like that. Is there someone like that?
We could say, so if I want to say more contemporary, I would say Usain Bolt because he would be a national leader,
Oh,
or
okay.
Sharika Jackson because they've dedicated stadiums and all these things. But then we have Jamaican Heritage Day in October where we celebrate all leaders. Um, Marcus Garvey,
Yeah,
of
yeah,
course,
yeah,
Bob Marley,
yeah,
um, and most recently, there was a huge celebration for Bob Marley's movie that came out. So
yeah.
those are
Sure.
some folks. And when I worked in the school in Jamaica, they kind of connected a lot of my work to folklore, Jamaican folklore. So, um, yeah.
Okay. Let's go into that. So now you teach at the university,
Mhm.
and your main focus is what? You did allude to it, but go back over it so that we understand it more
So
better.
what I actually do now, I train teachers. So I work with in-service and pre-service teachers. So teachers who are training to become teachers and teachers who are already in the field. And I work with culturally responsive teaching. So how are we teaching our Black American and our Black Indigenous people of color, our students, um, and how are we welcoming them into our classrooms? So I do a lot of that training. I do non-traditional teaching methods. So how do we include hip hop and Caribbean music and methods that students use on a regular into the actual English classroom? So I taught English for 10 years, sorry. And then
Mhm.
I and I did at A&T as well. So that's a part of my research. I also do healing and restorative research. So the work that we do, how are we healing ourselves? How are we restoring ourselves in it? What about it brings us joy? So what you were saying earlier about how your work brings you joy, that's to
Mhm.
me,
Mhm.
that's restorative work because we're not doing work for the sake of doing work. We're doing work because it sustains us. And then the other piece, transnational work. So a lot of the population in New York, of course, is like a melting pot, right? So how are we welcoming all parts of our students into the classroom space without forcing them to negate any parts of them? And
Okay.
that's based on my own experience.
let's go over each one just and give me a tip. Like, or the first one that you mentioned, a day of class is what? What are you telling them? And what
So
books do you assign books for them to read or something like, yeah. So what do you telling me, hey, there's a student from Jamaica. You need to understand why they say the dialogue so that you understand. Yeah, give me an example of that one.
So when I think about emancipation literacy, so that was the first one.
Right.
I think about my students and we go through a deep dive of who they are, how they show up in the space, who I am, who I show up as a space. So we have a very clear level playing field about who are we sharing space with. I'm very intentional about who we share space with. So every single day we do affirmation statements and how are you showing up? So it's become so much of a routine that even when I don't say it, they do it. They check in and they show how they're showing up in the space and how they are affirming themselves. So like my affirmation this week has been, I am worthy and deserving of everything that is great. And
Okay.
they go around and they do the same thing. And then we move forward in the teaching. That way everyone has visibility and everyone has a presence.
How does
Um,
someone get a grade out in that class?
Honestly, by just participating, they do a
Okay.
lot of reading responses, and I give them critical reading. So they read. There's a text called Rotten English, and my master's students they read that. They do a reader's response, and pretty much how they felt reading it, right? Because sometimes the way you felt reading it is probably how the person felt who wrote it, who has to now translate that into English, right? So Rotten
Okay.
English is a text that's written in pure dialect. So it's written in Grenadian dialect, African dialect, Ghanese, Jamaican dialect, whatever. And the
Okay.
students, most of my students are white male or white female,
Okay.
um, with one or two
Yeah.
um, Black or Hispanic. So
Yeah.
it's really kind of in opening them up and broadening their view of other people that they don't normally see.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's
so
beautiful. That's
thank you.
beautiful. Yeah, I love it.
The transnational literacies piece is just me. I always tell them stories about me, honestly, and bring my food into the conversation and allow them to talk about their food. And I do that intentionally because they don't know other people's lived experiences. So if I don't ask and create space for it and share, a lot of times it won't come up, right?
Yeah, yeah. I,
Um,
excuse me for interrupting you, but so your school has to be very proactive to allow you to do this because there are schools that, and I was talking to a guy the other day, he said we fought. We had to go sit in the principal's office or sit in the president's office to get these kind of programs
mhm,
because we knew we needed that for the benefit of our students.
mhm. Yes, I would say my school is proactive and making sure that everyone is welcome, regardless of race, class, gender, creed, etc. But I would also say there's a particular pertinence in my department because each one in my department pretty much has a focus on making sure that we don't avoid the difficult conversations and we introduce our students to those conversations so that when
Yeah.
they go out and to teach, we don't perpetuate the very issue that exists in America where we continue to harm the children because we don't know who they are.
Which leads to this. There is efforts among the majority people to help Black folk and other nationalities
Mm-hmm.
simulate in America.
Right.
And that's what you're doing.
Simulate, yes, but I push against simulating a little bit because simulating almost to me suggests that a part of them is disappearing when they simulate,
I love it then. Okay.
right? Like
All right.
sometimes when you simulate, what you're saying is I'm conforming to the ways in which that exists in America as compared to saying you're welcoming all parts of me into America. You're creating space for me to be both what you want me to be and myself at the same time.
Did you wish that people would have said to you, well, dang, why don't I get to know some Jamaican stuff? Because the Jamaica is beautiful. So you here sitting here talking about me, making jokes about me, when you should take your time to learn who I am.
Right. Yes. I did wish that. I also had a few Jamaican students when I taught in North Carolina. And I kind of helped them create that space for themselves because they felt ostracized and they felt secluded. So I used to work very closely with the Jamaican students in North Carolina, trying to help them navigate what it means to be Jamaican in America.
And I'm gonna stay on that just a tad. So what happens a lot of times when when black folks, and I'm gonna stay with us, when we get a little money, we move out the city, we move to the suburb. Then we
Right.
move into the suburb. We got our kids going to these schools that are predominantly white, and the kid is sitting there and he's saying, "Okay, and how do I be who I am in this environment?" And then they lose who they are, and now they become, for lack of a better term, I don't mean no harm, the Clarence Thomases of
No, that's real though.
America. You
That's
follow?
real.
How do you how would you deal with students who have that dynamic?
So honestly, there's nothing I can say, right? But I do try to teach the history. I try to expose them to the history and allow space for them to create their own thought processes or make their own decisions, right? Like on the other side of the coin, I've had a white student who said she wants to stay in a rural area that's mainly white because she was afraid for her life, right? And told me that straight up.
I believe it. Yeah.
I didn't feel any kind of way about it because of how I teach my class. I teach my class in such a way. I don't want you to lie to me. Because if you lie to me, then I don't know who I'm talking to. But if you tell me the truth, I don't have to guess who you are. So if you tell me you don't ever want to work with black students, that's true. That's real. Thank you for telling me.
Right.
But now for our black students and our black folk who want to like leave black areas and go towards, I mean, it's cool, but the reality is even when you try to hide your blackness, the people who you just moved and live with, you can't hide your blackness from
That's
them because they
right.
know you
That's
black.
right. That's right.
And it's gonna the minute to me, when the minute a white person falls into a situation and it's like, am I gonna pick your side or the other? They're gonna pick whatever side that benefits them.
That's right.
And you're gonna still be black over here in the suburbs.
That's right.
You
That's
know what I'm
right.
saying?
That's right. Now let me ask you this: what might have you have told that white student when they said that to you? Why are you afraid of us? Or okay, go ahead and move. Yeah, what could have been the response to her?
So it happened, and all I said was like, "Oh, okay." Like, so have you made the connections with? Because here's the thing, you can't wrong somebody for operating their truth, right? So I can't say, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you don't want to teach black students." But what I can say is, well, have you done the work to connect to the communities that you do want to work? Have you done the work to meet the people that you
I
want to
got
meet,
you. I
right?
got you. I got you.
And then what ended up happening about 3 or 4 weeks later, this student worked with a lot of Black and Hispanic students and completely changed
Oh my
their
God.
initial view.
Yeah,
All of a
yeah,
sudden, they're like, oh, I'm open to coming here. I'm no
yeah,
longer afraid of the city. I'm no
yeah.
longer afraid of these things. But if I had told you that you have to this and I penalize you for
I
having
got
an
you.
opinion or speaking your truth, then I'm not doing anything besides telling you to think the way that I think. No, I need you to
Yeah,
think the way you think, because if you're one less person in a school that has Black and Hispanic kids, then that's
yeah.
one less person who doesn't want to teach them, that could continue to perpetuate the very issue that is
I
this.
love it. I love it. Okay, we're gonna stay on that just a little bit more and then go to that third one. There was a guy, I was in Selma. There's a white guy. He's on the show too, and I'm gonna release his video soon. His great great grandfather wrote the Jim Crow laws, and now he's heard this and he knows this, and he's changed his attitude towards black people because they did all they could to make a racist out of him.
Right.
And what happened is I don't know, let's call it one main experience where when he was in the military, his boot camp bedmate or whatever was a black guy. What
Hmm.
what what do you think about white people who do that? I mean, who then find that compassion in their heart
Who find the compassion in their heart to do what?
to love black people, to want to
Um,
apologize for the ills of society?
so my response is about, it might be, it's uncommon opinion. So there's one thing about a white person who's found the compassion and the empathy and all this thing towards black people. That's one thing, right? And we dance on that line of white fragility, because is it sincere or are you just apologizing for the history that your people have? That's one.
Okay.
So the second part is I'm a little leery of allyship because sometimes an
Oh, okay.
ally just means that you tolerate me and you accept me, but it doesn't mean that you're willing to change anything for me. So then I lead
Okay.
into
Okay.
interrupter. So allyship and interruption. The author is Tanya Perry, and she talks about like it's not enough to just be an ally, it's being an interrupter. So yes, thank you so much. Thank you for the hug. Thank you for understanding my experience. But what are you willing to interrupt for me
I love it. I love it.
to allow me to be more comfortable in this situation, understanding that my very existence is political and I probably will always be uncomfortable.
Yeah, I love it. That's good. Now, the third one that you teach, do you remember that? What I know you do, but what's the other
But
one that
healing and restorative
yeah,
literacies.
yes. What is
So
what's a class in that?
So, for example, last week, every day they do their affirmation statements, they check in. So, if my students are not doing well, one thing I recognize is if I don't make space for you to tell me, then I've lost my class period. So what I do is I take a few minutes. I'm like, okay, if it's a scheduling issue, take out your planners, figure out a time to create self-care and time for yourself that you do absolutely nothing. So we do that together for a few minutes. Last week, what I did was I had everybody put their head down, like we were kids, like back in the day. Put your head down for a minute and just give yourself a moment. Just give yourself a moment. You ain't got to do nothing besides put your head down and just breathe. And that's how I kind of create that healing and restorative space. Like it's not all about the work. Yes, you're trying to pursue a degree. Yes, you want to be teachers, but you also have to be a person.
Yeah, I
So
love
just
it.
breathe. Just breathe.
Yeah.
We do a lot of meditations in class. Um, my father has Alzheimer's, and he was kind of the motivation for my work in healing restorative literacies. When he got sick during COVID, that's when I learned like I can't remain the rigid teacher I was prior to COVID because life is not guaranteed to anyone. And I also can't treat work as if it's the end all be all because we still have to live a life because a lot of
Yeah.
folks get ill and they don't get to live.
Yeah. Did you come up with this curriculum or was it already there and you were the perfect fit?
At this institution.
Yeah.
So I pretty much get a skeleton of what they would prefer us to teach. And then you put your own spin on it. So we could choose the books that we want to choose. So I use Goldie Muhammad's Cultivating Genius. I use Goldie Muhammad's Unearthing Joy. I use Bettina Love's We Want to Do More Than Survive. Um, Bettina Love's Punishment for Dreaming. Literacy is Liberation, all these different texts just to kind of broaden their perspectives. These are all Black folk who are doing the same thing the white authors are doing, but they're just Black. I want to use Black authors, and I
Okay.
mainly use Black women.
Okay.
Um, so I do kind of consider myself a decolonial feminist. Um, yeah, a decolonial feminist. And so they didn't give me anything besides a skeleton, and I added my own little juice to it.
Is there a title to this field of study or something that you do?
I do critical literacies.
Okay.
So critical literacies interrogates power dynamics that exist, systems and structures. It works to dismantle the systems and structures that exist, especially against marginalized individuals. Um, I also, generally speaking, my PhD is in literacy, culture, and language, and how those three things interconnect. So I'm always thinking about how our cultures and the power dynamics are always ever present in anything we do. And I don't look at literacy in my work as just reading and writing, but how we are bringing the whole person into this literacy instruction.
Is what you do a social science or is that what it would be?
Yeah, it's considered social science.
Is there what research do you do? What personally to be even more effective?
So I could speak to my most recent. We just did some data collection. Well, let me not. So for my dissertation, what I did was I worked with a school in Jamaica and then I worked with a school in North Carolina. And I use hip hop and Caribbean music to kind of think through critical dreaming. Critical dreaming, I conceptualize, and I'm still working with it. What does it mean to dream beyond your histories and your experiences and the stories that you carry? So I created lesson plans and shared those lesson plans with select volunteer teachers, um, and went through that process to kind of see, can we actually teach students how to dream, and specifically how do we teach Black and Caribbean students how to dream despite their circumstances. Aside from that, I do anti-racist work. So I have a critical dialogue work that I do with my friend who's white, but we have faced a lot of different obstacles where folks have come in and they're like, who is she? Not me, but who is my friend to speak on Black experiences and Hispanic struggle? And she's a white woman. So it's almost that idea that if she doesn't do the work with me, then it doesn't validate her work, if that makes sense. So we
I
do a lot of
understand.
work with critical dialogue. So recently, we've done some data collection on what it means to be a white woman or Black women doing anti-racist work in academia, and some of the challenges that we faced. Some of her challenges have come from white women and white men interrogating her, and what gives her the privilege to speak on the experience of Hispanic and Black folk. And then for me, a lot of mine have come from Black men. Isn't recently changed, but a lot of my fight back or pushback has come from Black men and having to like prove myself that what I'm saying is actually truth and valid. Um, but that has actually, like in
Yeah,
the
well, I
past,
mean, you lived it though. How could they? I mean, they might not know your story, but they like, how could that be?
yeah, but I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think there's sometimes this stigma that's attached to the Black woman and the Black man that exists, that is like, well, you need to learn how to stay in line, which literally I was told this,
Really?
um, that I need to learn how to stay in line and stay in my place and all of these things. And then when I got to a certain point in my education journey and I got the degree, then magically it wasn't like, not magically, but now it's not about staying in line, it's, oh, I'm proud of you. But before I crossed the line and became PhD, you weren't proud of me, was you doing too much, learn how to stay in line. At this point, it became, I'm proud of you, now just keep going, because now you're on the other side. So it's like Tyler Perry said something, and I always refer to him, and he says, when he was building his foundation, he always thought about him helping someone cross. So like that's kind of how I see my work. Like I'm just trying to help somebody across, but there's a lot of people who don't want to see you cross. They don't want to see help you. They don't want to see you cross the street. They just want to keep you over there and watch you inch across. And there's other people who might actually help you. You know what I mean? Like that
Yeah, I
actually
got
might
you.
help you.
I got you. Uh, almost as we come too close, what's a ha moment for you?
Can you elaborate?
Uh, okay, on a couple fronts. When what was and I know you probably alluded to the ha moment when you decided this was going to be your career path.
Um, so my you mean like my aha moment?
Yeah. How that said, okay, this there's something that I can do with this. I can go into this direction and make a living with it.
So um I was teaching, so this is where it came up. When I was teaching, I had a student, they called her my child, and she acted like me, how I acted when I was 17. And I already told you how I was when I was 17, but she was like a little
Right.
bit more extreme. And but that was my child. Like I
Let me
did
stop you there.
everything.
You were teaching like a high school or something like
Yes,
that.
I
Okay,
was
I
teaching
got
high
you. All
school
right.
at this
Okay.
time.
All right.
And this particular student, I remember being told by a vice principal, um, you need to stop trying to save her and just let her get what she get. And
Wow.
that changed how I viewed, like I already had the feeling that education was becoming more like a business. But when
Wow.
that was said to me, it was like,
Wow.
wow. And God God is amazing, right? Because during
Yeah.
that week, I had interviews planned for doctoral programs that nobody knew about. And so when that person said that to me, I was like, well, that's the confirmation right there that it's time for me to do something different.
I got you. I love it.
Because I can't look at a kid that's suffering and be like, I need to let you get what you get. If I actually love what I do as a teacher. If you don't love what you do, that's different. But I didn't come to teaching with the thought process that I'm going to get rich. The thought process was to give somebody an opportunity to do something different because somebody had to give me an opportunity to do something different.
So your vehicle to do what you do is through teaching, where
Yes.
other people's vehicle could be, I'm going out there feeding the homeless and that kind of thing there. That's the point.
Yeah, through teaching. And I tell people all the time, teaching saved my life. If I didn't have an education, if I didn't have the ability to actually, it saved my life. Because there's so many things that I've experienced, and if I didn't have a way to get away from it and work with kids, and take your mind off of your own story, it saved my life. Teaching is absolutely, I love it because it just takes you away from your own life experiences. Absolutely, it saved my life.
I'm about to say something to you, and I hope you don't mind. You an angel.
Oh, thank you.
You gotta be.
Thank you.
Did God put his hand on you?
Thank you.
You an angel.
Thank you.
And you use education. You reach the highest heights. You ain't got to go no further in the Ph.D. So from your background, you went into the highest heights under the premise of helping others, though.
Yes. Yep.
And so every day you wake up kind of like with a smile on your face and I'm going to get somebody today. That's a good day for you.
I mean, honestly, yeah. Like when I read my students' writing and they tell me, and I see them like, I'm wondering like, how can I be a good teacher and how can I be a good white person and not harm my students? Like that's a good day for me because it makes me want to go teach. A good day for me is honestly, I love my Black kids. So any opportunity I have to speak to Black students and work with Black students, that's the phenomenon. I'm like beyond happy. Yeah.
Do you have you written a book?
I'm working on it.
Okay.
I've written several articles on how to teach for hope and justice. So someone Googles me, they'll see articles on like how to teach for hope and justice. They'll see my dissertation on critical dreaming. So the very research I was telling you about in Jamaica and North Carolina, it's up there. Another one on critical dialogue, like conversations you should have with each other as teachers and with your students to kind of help dismantle racism that exists in the classroom.
Do you do public speaking? How do you reach a larger audience than just the classroom and the students that come through to you? Is that part of your goal setting goal plan in the future?
It's become a part of my new goal planning. I've done about 4 so far this year, so that's a blessing. I call this my rebranding year. God brought that to me at the end of last year. So at the end of every year, I go through like a full cleanse, December and January, just cleansing my spirit, praying, focusing, fasting, etc. And God brought that to my foresight that this is my rebranding year of just speaking to people and telling my story and reaching a broader audience and kind of getting outside of myself and being, I guess, the force that he wants me to be. Because I don't think God was to bring us here to be ordinary, right? He brings us here to be extraordinary. So like trying to learn what it means to be extraordinary in a new position in a new field.
Are you afraid of doing this, or are you ready? You geared up, you armored up, and all that other.
Oh, I'm armored up because I feel like every day I walk outside, I'm on the battlefield, so I'm good. If anything, I'm learning to deal with the scrutiny more, which is okay. It's expected. But I'm ready because I feel like if I walk with God, then everything else is already taken care of.
Just a couple more. You said the scrutiny. Why does somebody want to say something about what you're doing to make it not be right? What do
So,
you know what I'm saying?
but so we think about it. So as a Black male, Black woman, our lives are already political. So there's always someone that's on the opposite end of what we do. So a lot of times they're gonna find the holes in, like, well, she's just trying to make it all about Black folk. But what's wrong with making it all about Black folk?
Yeah, that's
So
what I
like,
say.
you know what I mean?
That right.
So I have a lot of mentors who have paved the way: Dr. Yolanda Seeley Ruiz, Bettina Love, Patrianne Smith, who do this work and they do it unapologetically. So when I think about the scrutiny, I think about me facing the scrutiny unapologetically. I don't really care about the hoopla and the propaganda and all the things that happen, because I don't live my life for anybody else besides whatever young lady or young male coming after me not having to have the same experience. And if that comes with glorification and money, then great. But my pastor says something. I follow Pastor Keon Henderson, and he says something like, if your success is not based on your payment, it's based on the lives that you touch, right? And that I've been trying to meditate on that. It's not, I don't care about the money piece. So that scrutiny and all the things that come with it, I'm like, if I touch one person in the audience, then I'm good.
And I think you don't get scrutinized, you don't get haters unless you are doing something right.
Right. Right.
And that's and there, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That go. I don't mean to use this in a religious way, but
That's real.
the devil shows up when you're doing good.
That's real. No, that's real though.
That's when he gonna say something through
That's real.
somebody else.
Real. So when the devil shows up, I say, oh, that's a distraction. I'm good. And people feel like that's all you got to say. I'm like, oh, that's a distraction.
Right.
It's
And
a
keep it
distraction.
moving.
You just keep it moving, because you don't live your life for that. When the
Right.
God has told you what your purpose is, then everything else is just fluff.
This is a ministry for you.
It is. It is. In the full sense of exactly what, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I see. Can you title this ministry if you could?
Um, what I've been calling it, honestly, is just the journey to emancipating myself. I emancipate myself by helping other people liberate. That's honestly how I do it. I teach because it emancipates me. It frees me of the stories and the histories and the mistakes and all the things that I've done. So my teaching is a ministry of that.
I love it.
Yeah.
You proud of yourself?
I'm proud of everything I've overcome
Yep.
and my active pursuit of healing. Yep.
This last one, can that come a day where you're like, I'm completely healed? Is there such a thing as that?
I don't think so. I don't think healing is ever a destination. I really think it's a journey. I do a lot of reading, a lot of spiritual work. I don't think you ever get to a healing destination. You get to the point where you recognize that you are healing, and as you are healing, your responses have changed and your reactions have changed. So when I think about, again, my classroom or the stuff going on in America about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and
Right.
banning books and all the things, I think of my work is all about empowering Black and brown students and allowing them to do something different. It ain't got nothing to do with the politics or whatever. Teach these students that politics are going to be there regardless, but to love themselves.
Well, okay. Well, so now the other part of the healing that I think most people say that they go through is to forgiving those who did what they
Yes,
did to us.
yes,
Is that, am I right
yes,
on that, right?
yes. So Stefan, love you. I don't know if you follow Stefan Speaks on YouTube, or his name is Stefan Labuse.
I'm not
He
familiar.
has a book on healing affirmations, and in that workbook, the first page, he says, write a letter to everyone that ever did you wrong. The way you feel it, just write it. Then he says, rewrite it in a way that you would actually give it to them. So at this point, like if you have cuss words or whatever in there, take it out, write it in a way. And if you feel up to it, give it to these people, telling them how they hurt you and how you are working to heal from the hurt. And it's a whole workbook of affirmations and going through this healing process by yourself.
I love it. Thank you for coming on the show. Oh, let me ask, before I say that, I asked you something you want to share, closing words, that kind of thing.
I have closing words, but it might be too spiritual, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Yeah, heck yeah, this is what we do here.
So what I'm going to say is, when I learned of your show, it was literally God talking to me at a time that was really, really low. And hopefully without me getting
Don't make me
emotional.
cry.
But at the time, there were so many rejections and so many things that were going on. And I saw Dr. Brianna Barner, her video, she posted it, and I was like, and then she said what she said, and I was like, okay, Lord, are you trying to tell me something? Like, is this what I need to do? So when you responded that day, it was like, okay, Lord, like, this is what you're trying to tell me to do. Like, I'm preparing myself for this season. And then later on that day, I got an invitation to speak somewhere, and I got an invitation the following day to speak somewhere. And this is after literally like weeks of rejections, weeks of no's, weeks of somebody else got it. And it was just like, okay, now Lord, what's next?
Hold on, let me stop it. Got what? Got to speak or got what? What do you mean?
Rejections.
From
So
what?
I had weeks of rejections from just different manuscripts, different
Oh, I see.
opportunities
Okay, I
that
got you.
I was
Oh,
looking into.
I got you.
And I was like,
I got you.
okay, Lord, I don't tried it. So what's next? And
I
I'm just
got
like,
you.
what's next? And I kept on saying, what's next?
I got
And
you.
my pastor, he preached something about what's next is your next. He said, well, you keep on saying what's next, God is telling you I'm next, like you next.
Right. I
And
got you.
it was like perfect timing because I saw your opportunity came up, and when you
I got
responded, I
you.
was like, I was in a complete emotional daze because I was like, wow, I literally just had like a dark 3-4 weeks. And then an opportunity came up. I'm like, okay, God is taking me in another
Oh yeah,
direction.
you good at this.
He's showing me what I need to do.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to say that in a sense of thank you for the opportunity.
Yes. Oh my God.
And thank you for being a vessel
Mm.
through God to show me what my next steps are.
Oh my God.
Because a lot of times we don't know what our next steps are. But we just like, okay, God, I'm trusting you. You said get up and go. It's like, well, we say, okay, let's go.
So you
Right?
know now, don't you?
I know that
Don't be scared.
yeah, like I'm supposed to tell the story.
Don't be scared.
Don't be scared, just tell
Don't
the
be
story.
scared.
And I don't need to be in the in the background. I could be in the forefront
That's
and
right.
do what the work is. So
Yeah.
I wanted to use that time to say thank you.
Yeah. Wow. You're making me cry, babe, because I started this on the humble, but I like doing it. This is 3 years running. And oh, you touched me on that one. Okay, shucks. Everybody, it's the strongest race. Oh my God, everybody. You hear that? That's an angel right there in front of you, my folks.
Well, thank you.
Stuff happened to her, didn't mean for it to. I apologize on behalf. Wish it had not happened.
Thank you.
As a man, I wish it had not happened. That's messed up. And I ain't going in no more detail. You know the detail.
Mhm.
But here you are today, stronger than ever, more wiser, more
For sure.
committed, more dedicated, more resilient. You're strong. You probably would have been that way anyway, but wouldn't have had that to tell the part of the story because it does happen. Whatever, all those, you know the stories.
Right.
Everybody hit the like button on this. There is no love button. If there was, I know you'd hit it. Hit the notifications bell for when the videos come up. You get a ding, a shock, a smoke signal, your lights flicker, your dog kicks you, your horn on your car goes off. So you know there's new content with people like this sister coming on strong. As man, this girl was so smart when she wrote her Ph.D. They didn't even read it. They just said, come on. We ain't got to go over that. Come on over here. We need you on the battleground. Foot soldier lady.
Well, thank you.
That's the story. I'm so blessed that she said that you did this. I got to go out and fight more. That's the plan. And so, to you, my sister, I say this and I mean this with all sincerity. I want you to stay strong, stay safe, stay on your grind. I love what you're doing, who you become. You a big success. No question about it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You got it. It's
Thank
yours for
you.
the taking. Thank you. Oh, how about this? Do you know any Jamaican dialogue to say goodbye? Is there words or something like that?
I can't say all right later, or did you hear what I just said?
Yeah,
I can't say all right later, or may I go now. So we will talk to you.
Thank you. All right. We out.
All right then.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.